Hello everybody, this is Chaos with Chaos Esports Productions, bringing you game number 4 of tonight's Clan War. Let's go ahead and introduce our players. Spawning in the lower right-hand corner for Team Elite, it is going to be, in the blue trunks, Havoc. And spawning in the upper left-hand corner, can he continue this streak? It is going to be Eternal Dreamers, Krillman. So, we've got a PvZ here on Frost Ladder Edition, probably one of my favorite maps here in the last couple seasons. So yeah, so we've got a little bit of a PvZ going on. It does look like we're going to actually have a Forge Fast expand, so we'll have to see how this all this works out for Havoc. Now, obviously, since it's a 4-player map, if you scout early enough and actually find your opponent, this can be very, very good for Havoc, because he might actually get the opportunity to cannon rush his opponent. So he's going to come in here, he's going to scout, he's not really going to see anything, and then he's actually going to go ahead and scout the correct position, and actually might have an opportunity to do some pretty good damage. So Forge is going to go ahead and get planted down, and actually it looks like Havoc's going to go ahead and send out the second probe to the other base, so he can guarantee that he's going to have enough time to go ahead and throw down that cannon. So now the reason why this is actually a pretty smart play is because normally on a 4-player map, people are kind of like, well, it's going to take a while for him to scout me, and if he does scout me, I'll probably have enough time to get stuff up and ready to go. Now, the Overlord does scout the pylon going down, so he is going to go ahead and pull a drone to go ahead and start poking at this. Interesting positioning. Obviously, 2 pylons do fully wall this off, so he is going to have enough time to plant down this cannon. Now, this hatchery is going down. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. As probably, I would assume that a cannon would go down here. Yeah. So, yeah, there's really nothing that Havoc can do. Now, the question of the day is, does this pylon power... Oh, well, he got this back pylon. So, yeah. So this cannon is going to go down, and I would say that Krillman is going to be in a little bit of a hurt here very, very shortly, as the with the cannons kind of keeping Krillman in his base. The natural is more or less going to be forfeit, and Krillman really needs to get up some spine crawlers to deal with these photon cannons as quickly as possible. Obviously, behind this, Havoc has more or less stopped pro production, so he's not looking to go anywhere further in this match. And it will basically just boil down to whether or not Krillman can hold on. So, obviously, we got 2 spine crawlers going down here. Some very, very slick moves coming out of Havoc. While I would say it's probably not the most skillful moves, obviously it gets the job done as the natural slowly begins to fall here. Probe's like, yep, I'm going to get a little piece of this action. And yeah, so the spine crawler's getting into position to do as much damage as possible to these photon cannons. It needs to be very, very careful, because that spine crawler could potentially go down, as it does. And actually the spine crawler was actually in a position to do damage, so the natural is forfeit, and does look like Havoc is going to go ahead and plant down his gateway and start getting his tech up now that he is fairly confident in how things are going. So we do have a Roach Warren on the way, which is probably the best option for Krillman at this point. Needs to get out units as quickly as possible. Also needs to, minimize the amount of damage that these cannons can do. So, obviously, injects going down all the time. 7 Roaches are on the way, so we'll have to see whether or not this is going to be enough to actually deal with these cannons. I mean, there are, let's see, 6 cannons here, so I mean, that's a lot to deal with. Nexus and Cybernetics Core are going down for Havoc, so he is going to be going ahead and continuing on getting his tech up. He is not 100% one just yet. Looks like the Roaches will start to focus down these cannons, trying to micro these Roaches enough to not lose too many of them. but with so many cannons doing so much damage, they're basically going to get focused down, and they will finally get cleaned up here. But at what cost? Krillman has lost a lot of units, as we see that he is very, very far behind. Needs to make sure he takes these engagements well. Obviously, by having this extra unit here, he needs to... Okay, so those are all focused down, so now he can focus down on the pylons, and it will boil down to how fast he can get over to his opponent's base. Now, there are a couple cannons. There is one cannon already out here, and the mothership core is also out. So I'd say, overall, Havoc is in a pretty good position to continue this game out. Obviously, he doesn't quite have the tech that his opponent does, and it will really boil down to whether or not Krillman chooses to continue on whether or not he chooses to go ahead and expand, or if he just goes ahead and tries to end it. The Robotics facility is going to go down, so Immortal production will be coming out, and it does look like Krillman will go ahead and put down that that expansion. Now, we don't have a Baneling nest out, so there isn't going to be like a Roach Baneling bust, which personally I think would be his best option, as Mothership Core getting some nice free shots off on these Roaches. Definitely going to be doing a little bit of damage. Obviously, they will regen some of that health, but will it be enough? We have a lot more photon cannons, and the pylon is going to go ahead and fully wall off. And I think Krillman at this point needs to just say, okay, there's just too much stuff here, because Immortal production has started, and yeah, I'd say overall it's not looking pretty good for any damage to actually get done with this counterattack. So Krillman is going to go ahead and back off. Well, he's going to leave his units here, but he's going to back off and go ahead and throw down his third base, which is probably his best move, and start to get up his economy to where he wanted to get it with that early expansion. Obviously, with everything being so delayed as a function of the cannon rush, timings are pretty much null. You really can't predict a timing with all the commotion that's gone back and forth, so both players are kind of playing in the dark as far as standard play is concerned, so they have to be a little bit leery as far as when players are going to be doing random attacks or doing timings and things like that. So even though timings are kind of out the window, or kind of a moot point in general, so Mothership Core is going to be flying across the way, going to be scouting for that third base. Now, obviously, there isn't a queen quite in position to deny that scout, so Havoc should get a pretty good idea of what's going to go on. Obviously, Krillman doesn't want to lose any of those roaches, as the Mothership Core and the Queen meet each other in fearsome battle. Lair on the way. So yeah, so both players are kind of in this awkward position. We've got a whole bunch of Immortals out coming from Havoc, and really only two gateways out, so I mean, this is probably going to turn into some type of Immortal Sentry all-in, but yeah, gonna be a strange one, that's for sure. So Roach Speed is on the way, as well as Spore Crawlers, which is kind of interesting. I mean, as far as vision goes, Krillman really hasn't gotten a decent enough scout up on the main base. He does have an Overlord in position that's a little bit low on health, but I'd say overall he's kind of in the dark as far as what his opponent's doing. So it does look like Krillman is going to go ahead and move out at the same time that Havoc is, and we will have to see whether or not they do meet in the middle here. Now, obviously they're just barely missing each. Krillman's like, okay, there are some Immortals there. Need to back off a little. And yeah, Havoc's just like, okay, I feel pretty confident with this. You got lots of Roaches, I've got lots of Immortals, and there's not really much you can do about it. So we'll have to see whether or not there will be enough Roaches here to focus down the Immortals quickly enough and mitigate the amount of damage that they can do. So I would think See, roaches, I really don't think roaches are the answer to this. I think speedlings would be a lot better. Now, granted, speed is done, I believe. Yeah, speed is done, so I'd say overall, yeah, I think speedlings would be a little bit more advantageous. Obviously, Havoc is going to go ahead and back off just for one more warp end before he goes ahead and tries to get in here and do some damage. Now, with this Overlord going down, it's obviously going to supply block Krillin for a little bit. Two time warps going down, which I think is a little bit of a mistake. Some very nice force shields going down to minimize the amount of damage those roaches can do. Roaches coming in from the back, trying to focus down the Immortals. And actually the sentries are being focused down, so a lot of gas is being lost here. But with the first Immortal going down, will the rest of the Immortals go down? Is there enough? Some very nice micro from Havoc, and actually this force is more or less moot. It just immediately evaporated, and I think Krillman's going to be in a very, very good position to go ahead and counterattack from this. Now, Immortals are still being chrono boosted out, and a couple more gateways are on its way, but the question is will there be enough units to come out here for Havoc quickly enough in order to do the amount of damage that needs to be done to the counterattack army? So all these pylons are going to get cleaned up here. I mean, the supply difference is pretty significant. I mean, Krillman's at more or less double the supply of his opponent. Krillman's needs to back off a little, make sure that his opponent doesn't get some free shots. Mothership 4 trying to do some damage. Just barely not going to get taken off. Some more spine crawlers going down at the third base just to make sure that there's nothing too bad. Krillman's going to go ahead and get a nice little scout off on... Ooh. Go ahead.
Our forces are under attack.
Go ahead and burrow his unit out here to give him a little bit of scouting information. Just outside of that range of the cannon, so it is going to get taken out. So yeah, I'd say overall Krillman's in a very good position. Spire is on the way, which is definitely going to be a nice little addition to his army, as Havoc has been focusing on getting out ground units that don't attack up. Havoc really doesn't have an answer to the mutas that are going to be on the way. Obviously, he's going to be chrono boosting out the Colossus as quickly as possible, but with only sentries to defend, there's really not much that Havoc is going to have that is going to be able to do anything. Colossus getting misplaced just a little bit, and with the mutas out on the field, I would think that he needs to start getting down the cannons as quickly as possible to defend those mineral lines. Now, mutas are circling around. We'll have to see whether or not they're actually going to get there in time. It's just going to focus down this Warp Prism, which is a nice little win. But I'd say overall, the cannon should be up in time in order to deal with the army. But the question is will Havoc really have enough to deal with the main army of Krillman? Krillman is already maxed out. As far as upgrade goes, he doesn't really have any upgrades, but I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of army coming out of Havoc. I mean, he's been so far behind in the economy race since he wasn't probing up while the cannon rush was going on that obviously his army is suffering as a function of it. So we'll have to see how this engagement goes. Now, Krillman is posturing to go in and do some damage. I'm not sure what he's doing. Mutas are coming in, trying to pick off some of these spare pylons that are around. Focusing down one of the sentries, which is a nice little victory in itself. Gonna try and focus down the Colossus. Ooh, is he gonna get another one? Another sentry is gonna go down, so there's only one sentry left. Will it go down? Because without any force fields, it's going to be very, very difficult for Havoc to deal with this army. The army's coming in, getting into a very, very nice position, and actually the Colossus will get focused down, and it looks like Krillman's going to have enough to take out this army and more or less take the rest of this game very, very convincingly, as the Immortals aren't really getting a whole lot of done. Well, this one got 14 kills, holy cow. And yeah, I don't know. It looks like Havoc is holding on very, very well. Mutas are slowly falling left and right, but the question is there enough? We've got 8 more mutas out on the way, and I'd say the army at the front is starting to finally clean up the rest of these stalkers, and I would say that army is defended, but the counterattack is really what's going to punch Havoc in the face, and it will really boil down to how this game turns out here in game number 3. So Krillman's getting into a good position. Nice surround on the Colossus, doing a significant amount of damage. Now, there was a nice Zealot Warp in here. Not a lot of damage getting done, and actually, I'd say overall it's being held off very, very well. But will it be enough? And excuse me, I did say game number 3. This is actually game number 4. Krillman's definitely doing a very, very good job trying to take down all the pylons as quickly as possible to minimize the amount of warp-ins and Colossus that Havoc is going to have. Next Colossus is going to get out, but with the Cybernetics core going down, it's going to be very, very difficult for Havoc to hold on, as no more Stalkers and Sentries can be warped in, and I think this might actually be enough to go ahead and force the GG, and there it is! Havoc is going to take the loss, and Eternal Dreamers is going to be up 3-1, and this could potentially be the last game of this series. We'll have to see whether or not Krillman can keep